Hello, everybody. It's Nate Leslie again. I'm here today with Dom DiRocco, longtime friend of Prep Camp. We go back as long as I do with camp, probably over 10 years. A native of Port Alberni, the first ever female head coach in the BC Female Major Midget League, a former assistant coach at University of British Columbia, and for sure the first woman from Port Alberni to coach women's pro in Sweden. Would that be right, Dom?
Yeah, that would be correct. Yes.
All right. All
Very
right.
confident.
She's currently at SDE in Sweden, and I'm going to let you tell us about that. Give that club name a try.
Yeah. So SDE stands for three communities that formed as one. So I think it's Stocks and Danderyd and Endyberry. They created one club. So SDE, we're one of 10 teams in the SWHL in the country. So it's pretty awesome.
Right on. Well, as we mentioned off camera, it is not lost on either of us that you are running the club, and congratulations on that position, by the way. In the middle of a pandemic, you flew over there in late August, and
yeah,
you are continuing to operate. So why don't we talk first a little bit about the experience and the international nature of the club, because I know a lot of the young women watching will want to know about the hockey and the club and what the heck you're doing over there. So where do you want to jump in?
Yeah, we're one of three teams in the Stockholm area, so the kind of most densely populated part of Sweden. 10 teams in the country, like I had said. Throughout the league, we have Olympians pretty much represented from most countries, majority European, but definitely American. We have Canadian, ex-Canadian Olympians. There's kind of across the whole world, you have some pretty high caliber players and some really great young talent. So yeah, it's been a really cool experience. We have a really diverse team. I have six Swedes, a Czech player, 2 Hungarians, 4 Dutch, a couple Americans, and 4 or 5 Canadians. So it's the United Nations, I think, of the league. I don't think we have no one is quite as diverse as us, but there are many other countries represented elsewhere. Many Norwegians and Finns, obviously, as well, Scandic countries. So yeah, it's been really cool. There's some amazing talent in Europe. I think that's been the neatest thing for me, is to see how we're so driven in North America with that rivalry, and it's been really cool to see the depth globally, like up front.
And you've traveled yourself a lot, Dom, and you and I have talked a lot about our travels over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And on the hockey side, you've come through the provincial and really understood the national program here in Canada. What's it been like to be on such an international club?
Well, it's been pretty cool. If I'm speaking like internationally and being in Sweden, they appointed 2 new coaches for 2-year terms. So they'll be the people in charge for this Team Sweden entering the Beijing Olympics. And they did a really cool thing. They sat down with every staff, so all 10 staffs in the summer, including us, and they spent about an hour and a half with me and my staff on a picnic table outside the rink, and came to practice, watched us skate, and they're at games every weekend in the country. And after a big win, you'll get a text from them. It's been really cool. They'll sit down with you in your office after a game. They want to know who's teaching, what they're teaching, what their philosophies are. They share. The hierarchy really isn't, it's not present when you're talking to them. It's really like a collaborative mentorship experience, and it's really humbling to have that from a group, a couple guys, Andreas and Ufe, who have just been great. And I think they're in camp right now currently with the Swedish girls, and they've obviously got their sights set on some goals. So it's been cool to see the development there, because I know they've fallen a little bit from maybe when I was young and watched kind of Canada, USA, and Sweden be a top 3, and I think they're 8 or 9 now. But I think the future's really bright for them, and there's ample talent in this league that's Swedish as well as other. But I think it's untapped, and yeah, it's going to be exciting to see that competition on a national scale, and that it maybe isn't going to be a 2 or 3 team, an Olympic battle. It's cool to see. It's going to be next 2 to 4 years is going to be cool to watch for sure.
Awesome. You said something there that caught my attention. I've done some work in countries where the hockey community is smaller, and in Canada, there's so many players that national team often for a coach like yourself probably seems really far away. And for you to have that access and that collaboration for kids growing up there, and for anybody watching who's in a smaller community that thinks, oh, wouldn't it be great, to be in the heart of everything. So I'm hearing that connection and access that you have to the people running the national program is very close and very direct. It's a unique opportunity that I think others can realize, hey, there could be something great in my situation here. It's not always, the grass isn't always greener, right? That sounds like a really great development opportunity for yourself.
Yeah, I think recognizing that even in this instance, they reached out from a top-down approach, but I think often in hockey, we kind of step back until we're asked. I mean, we're not often like beating our own drum. So I think one thing I've thought of this is like, once you have that contact, whether you're whatever country you're in or whatever your situation may be, or no matter how small your community is, like the hockey community is small. Like Canada's 3 times the population of Sweden. We shouldn't necessarily feel like it's that much more distant, and it just takes reaching out for someone to, like, the worst thing they can do is just not reply, and that happens. But I mean, if you never know, like you never know. And I think that's something I'm thinking of here. Like there's just so many possibilities, whether it's hockey, your life, or your career, or just, you got to ask, you never know. And connections are the biggest reason why people take the next step. I mean, it's why I'm here, is a great connection I've had in my hockey experience, the athletes I've worked with and recommended me. And like being connected and staying connected is kind of how we are able to gain those really cool, unique experiences. So yeah, I mean, I would just say, send an email, send a text, try to find a mutual friend or a connection that makes sense, and see where it goes. Because I don't think life's meant to be lived the same year over and over, 50 years over and over, the same thing. So
right on. And yours has not. That's great.
No, for better or for worse, I don't know. Yeah.
No, it's great. We're all really proud of you. I've talked to recruiters in the real world who say every employer and a business owner myself, every candidate that comes through the door, you want that next one to be the last one you ever have to interview. Mm-hmm. And sometimes players think, oh, it's them over there, and maybe they'll see me one day. And just being proactive, you're saying, get yourself out there, make those connections. And the truth is, for those coaches too, same in your position as recruiting, you want that next player that contacts you to be the greatest recruit you ever discovered, right? And so players shouldn't sit back and just hope that maybe one day someone might see them. I think that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and I think impressions, they go a long way. And it's easy to sit behind a screen and send one and feel like, okay, I failed. It's easy not to touch that, again, that might burn me. But persistence is also something that I think is really well respected. Being in a recruiting role for myself, being in an area where you're wanting to connect with your peer group, persistence is important. You can't take it personally if someone doesn't respond. We all have different things in our life where we might miss something, or you never know, just a little reminder is always good. Yeah, I think that's the biggest piece, is kind of be able to swallow your pride and just try to connect.
Right on. I heard you say earlier that when we were off camera, it's not lost on you that you're operating in a pandemic, and that's helped give you some perspective and some time to reflect, just rather than maybe just the simple logistics of how that's all working right now, just what impact that has had on you as a coach, as you share that message when times are tough, they could be worse.
Oh yeah, I feel like I've aged as a coach 3 times as much. I mean, it wasn't long ago I was in the university circuit, and I feel like, I mean, I'm okay to say this. I'm 3 times the coach I was then. Patience, kind of like understanding of my resolve, sticking to the process, being able to like read a situation and like be really confident in the steps I take next. And I think this pandemic and living in lockdown in Canada prior to coming here had the pandemic in general, I think, gives a lot of perspective if you choose to look at it. I mean, our 2, 3 generations before, I have relatives and immigrants that fled from war. You know, my grandparents fled, both sets fled from war and experienced famine. And I mean, we're just asked to stay at home and watch Netflix. I think we can step back and like be okay with it. And then taking it a step further, I mean, there's ups and downs in high performance sports, no different for us in the SWHL. And if we're having a tough period or a tough game, or it was a tough loss, you know, goal in last minute or a tough overtime loss, you know, just to be able to step back, and our staff is keyed on gratitude. We're able to do this, play a kid's game, you know, while the world is suffering and turning. And I mean, we shouldn't feel bad about it, but we should step back and maybe like not sweat the small stuff, you know, like it's just a game at the end of the day. And, you know, we have to just find that balance, that the win and loss tally at the end of the column doesn't correlate directly to our core of our happiness. Like there has to be something else. And I think when we're able to look at the world, that there's so many problems that need to be fixed, and it is overwhelming, and to focus on a couple of them and just like be mindful of a couple of them is okay and is healthy. But just to step back and be like, man, we're lucky, like we get to do this. Our bubble, some people's bubble in some countries is 5, and that's it. And we're allowed by the government with the professional status, us and the men, that our bubble's 30, and we keep it really safe within that 30. I mean, our girls aren't doing some of those social things that they could do any other year, and that's to keep each other safe and to keep our league safe. We're not allowed to celebrate after goals, which I think it's quite humorous to watch their reactions. Like, don't come near me, like after they score, like step, you know, it's ingrained in you as a hockey player. So there's all these things that are unique to this year, but definitely being mindful and of our, what's the word? We're very privileged to do what we do right now. And I just try to like ingrain that in the girls every once in a while. That's our message. And I think we're pretty level-headed in that sense.
I just pictured some great, a new evolution of goal celebrations, you know, where
I'll send you some video. I'll
Please
send you
do.
some video. Oh, it's, you know, like they stand stick lengths apart and tap their, like, it sounds ridiculous. And it kind of, I mean, it is what it is. It's what the league has asked us to do, but it's
video.
funny.
Save that video, Dom, for when this is all over, right? Like,
Yeah.
when we look back at this. Hey, tell me about what Sweden is doing really well in hockey. How do they create such amazing players with so few?
That's such a good question. I got part of my role here is the coordinator of the female side of the program, and it's a huge club here. So like the Nylander boys were here as young guys. In terms of their development under 18, they're really high regarded. So I was able to work with the guys in the club and do the summer camps as well as the fall break camps. So I'm on the ice with the little guys, you know, like you're confident, you go out there. I've been doing this for years in Canada, but an 8-year-old Swede is not the same as an 8-year-old Canadian. And for a couple of reasons, positive on both sides, but like a Canadian is regimented, like they're going to scream like, Jackson, in line, like get behind me, you know, that like they know order. If we need to line up on the dot, we're lining up on dot. These are the rules, you know, and they're still energetic and they still love it and they have fun. Swedes don't necessarily know, like at that young age, there is no order, but their level of ability to skate, they are phenomenal athletes on the ice. Like it's what they're teaching and what I'm watching them teach kids at a young age in terms of skating. There's no surprise why they've pumped out so many high-end Swedish defensemen, or just pretty much they're known to be great skaters.
Yeah.
So I think that skill development without any restriction at a young age, it translates to like mobile players on big ice. So I think they've obviously that side of it is exceptional. They've got some really high profile skill development kind of theories and people running their own businesses here that are, you know, we even know in Canada, they're kind of household names. So I think they're doing a really great job in that sense. And I do think that they have a really, I don't know the men's side as well, but I can see that the community, it's just such a smaller country. So there is a smaller, like you kind of, they kind of know everybody.
I'm just going to jump in there, Dom. So let's be practical about that. And it's hard without a whiteboard or a video camera. But okay, 8-year-old skating with a little bit less structure, like get in line and stand there, which you and I never really liked anyways.
No.
Try to describe like an 8-year-old skating, not a drill specifically, but just that philosophy that's being applied to those 8-year-olds when it comes to things like skating.
So not necessarily like the straight up regimented technique is, I would say, drilled into them, like, dorsiflexion in your ankle, knee bend, and then extension with the toe on the release. Like the absolute details that a power skating coach might teach you. That's not necessarily what I see. What I see is like, we're on one foot, we're 7 years old, and I can do a 180 and land it. But like my form, I don't know if it's even there. It's just kind of beautiful chaos. I don't know if that's like
that wasn't a loaded question that I asked you, but I was hoping you would say that, because that's what I picture and see, and you know, spent time growing up playing in Europe as a kid. Like, yeah, a 7-year-old can't get their head around dorsiflexion, knee, whatever, toe snap. Like just land a 180 and figure it out and do it 1,000 times. Is that it?
Yeah, they're just throwing a bunch of bombs. They're launching themselves. They're trying it. They're falling. It's okay. They're uncomfortable. It's amazing to watch. Like I got to be on the ice with the club chief, and he's a guy named Christopher Falk. He's done quite a bit in this area. And I got my first day on, I'm watching him run these kids through skating, and it's just amazing. Like I was blown away. So yeah, they're definitely heads and tails ahead of us in terms of teaching edge control, or just allowing kids to try to feel comfortable or push themselves.
Would you call it exploring edge control instead of teaching edge control?
Yeah, and I don't even think the kids know they're learning edge control at the time. I think it's just, I'm going to watch this exceptional guy do this. And it's funny because they've got younger guys in the club that just graduated, 18, 19, 20 years old, and they're teaching the same stuff. And these guys can do it. Doesn't matter what camp coach it is, but like maybe not to the same explanation, but his young guys that have been in the club, that have been academy, like, you know, under 16 guys or J20 guys in the club, they're teaching the kids as well. And there's really not a lot, there's difference obviously in terms of the experience, but they're able to do the same technique and show it. And the kids just like, it could be a bunch of kids that spoke only German, and they could do what these guys are doing because it's so demonstration focused versus verbal
chaos. Like a teenager can get kids trying stuff maybe better than he or she can teach that toe snap.
Totally.
That's not the foundation of the teaching anyway. So it's that transfer of knowledge is set up in a way that they're set up for success, not failure at 17 or 18 when they're helping out, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's just like a culture that's driven by like a visual example. That's just kind of standard of what is expected. And again, the SDE has been known as a really great club for the youth, you know, and so kids come to these camps expecting that, right, that standard. So I think I saw a really good level.
Although there also is more transfer of knowledge and sharing of ideas and consistency across clubs because of the philosophy too, right? Whereas we in North America might find something completely opposite in one club versus another, just due to numbers, geography, ego, training, whatever it
Yeah.
may be.
Yeah.
Would you say there's more consistency from what you've heard? I guess you haven't maybe seen it.
Yeah, I haven't seen too many other clubs. It's hard to speak on, but I do think their general philosophy of how to teach even school children, like the philosophy across the board is there's no bad weather, there's only bad clothes. Like kids are outside no matter what it looks like here. It doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are. Your little 5-year-old is rolling around in the mud and they're spending a lot of time outside. So just their general idea of like how they're going to bring up their youth, I think is shared. And I think they have such a trust in like government and processes and health. And so like it's not that there isn't competing mindsets, but I think the general culture in Sweden is like aligned because it's such an easygoing type of people. There's not a lot of like there's obviously conflict in all life, but there definitely is less conflict than I've experienced in other places.
Yeah. I'm gonna wrap it up with this, Dom. How has this experience for you changed you as a coach?
Yeah, I've it's probably not enough time, and I can talk, but I've often said that like someone should be doing like a societal experiment or like a research paper on this experience, like through a global pandemic. Players aged range 31 to a young 15-year-old superstar, under 18 national team kid, to like a 31 to median age 25, across 7 or 8 countries, with different backgrounds. I'm not just coaching a North American that had this when they were U12 and this when they were U14. Like it's really amazing. Some of them start their high performance when a female hockey player ends it at 24 in Canada or 22 in Canada. So it's been really amazing. It's pushed me in terms of how I can help the athlete. It's not just one track. I've never seen such a diverse group, and that's such a positive. I don't think that's a negative, but I've learned a lot, and I've been really patient. And I think being patient, no matter if it's a 5-year-old or a 29-year-old, and I'm 33, so it's not like that big of a difference, but being patient across the board, I think allows that leash to gain the foundation, so that when you do have to have a conversation about constructive criticism, there's like a bit of comfort there. And I think you can get more out of the athlete. But being in a place where there's just, so I think that's the best way to put it, is just trying to understand and be quiet in your resolve until you need to make that statement. It is important. And I think the other thing is listening. I know it's so cliche, but I've really taken on to learn everybody and have all these new ideas and cultures and experiences and mindsets. Whenever there's any type of conflict, or even just, I've tried to take everybody out for a coffee or a fika, as they say here, and just listen. And even when they're done, just say, is there anything else? Like, just listen. Because like, I think we have our mind made up of what we want to say when we sit down with somebody. And you miss out on so many little things, especially when you're in a position of power, to be able to say something. Someone that's 27 has amazing experience that I should take something from that. And if I don't sit there and listen, I'm going to miss out on a few things. So that's been the other point for me that's really changed and been positive. I just think that's a life thing too, though.
Yeah, you nailed it, Dom. It's well said. I won't add anything more. Hang in the line. Thanks for your time, Dom.
Hey, thanks, Nate. Appreciate it.